In a star-studded Las Vegas arena, boxing's most feared man, Mike Tyson, publicly mocked a Hollywood legend. He had no idea the 60-year-old actor was about to give him a lesson in respect he'd never forget. The MGM Grand pulsed with a primal energy, a cathedral of combat sports consecrated for one night only. Las Vegas at its most incandescent. Every seat was a universe of anticipation. Every voice a tributary flowing into a deafening river of sound that crashed against the arena walls. Blinding white floodlights baptized the octagon at center stage, making the canvas glow with an almost celestial light. Tonight was Legends and Legacies, an exhibition designed to unite icons from every fighting discipline. The official narrative was a celebration of the warrior spirit. But the thousands in attendance, who had paid fortunes for their tickets, craved more than celebration. They craved collision. In the 13th row, 14-year-old Leo gripped his father's arm, his eyes wide with a disciple's reverence. For months, he'd saved every dollar, dreaming of this moment. His hero, Mike Tyson, the force of nature, the embodiment of explosive power, was in the building. "You think he's still got the fire, Dad?" Leo whispered, his voice cracking with excitement. His father, a man who had seen legends rise and fall, smiled. "Fire like that never goes out, son. It just changes shape." Backstage, the green room was a chaotic mix of testosterone and nervous energy. In a quiet corner, away from the boisterous self-congratulations of younger fighters, Jason Statham methodically went through a series of dynamic stretches. At 60, his physique was a testament to a lifetime of discipline, lean, functional, and coiled with a quiet potency. He wore a simple black Henley shirt and dark tactical pants, a stark contrast to the flashy tracksuits around him. He was an observer, his gaze missing nothing. When Mike Tyson entered, the room's gravitational center shifted. Even among titans, he was a son. His entourage moved with him, but the aura of invincibility was all his own. He greeted everyone with handshakes and shoulder claps, his surprisingly soft voice a paradox against his fearsome reputation. A producer signaled 5 minutes. The fighters began to file toward the tunnel, Tyson naturally taking the lead. Statham fell in line near the back, content in the shadows. The arena lights dimmed. A single spotlight cut through the darkness. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed, "the moment you've been waiting for." Music exploded from the speakers as the legends emerged. The crowd rose as one. When Tyson appeared, bouncing on the balls of his feet, the roar was physical. He was a gladiator returning to his coliseum. "Tyson! Tyson! Tyson!" The chant was a shockwave. Leo screamed himself hoarse. Moments later, Jason Statham walked out. The applause was respectful, but more subdued. He didn't play to the cameras. He simply walked, his steps measured, acknowledging the crowd with a slight, professional nod. Inside the octagon, the introductions began. When Statham was announced as a martial arts icon and one of Hollywood's most authentic action stars, he gave a small, almost imperceptible bow. But when Tyson's turn came, the announcer barely had to speak. The most feared man to ever step into a ring. "Iron, Mike Tyson." The response was seismic. As the official photo opportunities began, Tyson, high on the wave of adoration, found himself beside Statham. A photographer waved them together. Draping an arm around the actor's shoulders, Tyson soaked in the cheers. Someone handed him a live microphone. The arena hushed. Tyson grinned. "Man, it's an honor to be up here with all these killers." His eyes scanned the stage. Boxers, wrestlers, MMA, and, he paused, his gaze landing on Statham with a dismissive smirk, the actors too. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. The laughter swelled, feeding Tyson's showmanship. He warmed to his impromptu routine, a comedian with fists of stone. That's all Jason here does, right? Fight in the movies. A bit of choreographed stuff for the cameras. He mimicked a slow, exaggerated movie punch that looked nothing like Statham's crisp, economical movements. "Ain't that right, Jason? Just an actor." The crowd roared. Leo, caught in the wave, laughed along with them. "He's calling him out, Dad." On stage, Jason Statham's expression remained a placid mask. No offense registered, but a subtle shift occurred in his eyes, a flicker of professional focus that cut through the arena's chaos. The announcer, sensing a viral moment, moved in with his own microphone. "Jason, any response to that assessment?" The arena quieted, leaning in. Statham took the microphone, his grip relaxed. When he spoke, his voice, laced with a dry British accent, lacked Tyson's bombast, but carried a quiet authority. "I've been called worse than just an actor," he said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "But there's a difference between a movie fight and a real one. One has a script." The reply drew appreciative chuckles, a counterpunch of wit. Tyson, sensing a shift in momentum, grabbed the mic back. "Hey, no disrespect to the Hollywood tough guys," he boomed louder now. "But let's be real. One good punch from these," he raised his fist to a fresh wave of cheers, "beats any choreographed move, any day. That's why boxing is the sweet science, the ultimate truth." The announcer, seeing promotional gold, fanned the flames. "Sounds like a debate on authenticity. What do you think, folks? Real power or movie magic?" Statham's gaze remained fixed on Tyson, ignoring the crowd. He spoke with measured calm, but his tone made the front rows fall silent. "In my experience," he said, "the loudest person in the room is rarely the most dangerous. Truth isn't shouted, it's demonstrated." Tyson's smile tightened. A flicker of the old predator surfaced. The fighter's instinct recognized the challenge beneath the calm exterior. "You saying you want a moment, Jason? A little demonstration? Right here." He gestured to the canvas beneath their feet. The crowd's energy surged, sensing the shift from banter to genuine tension. The production team gestured frantically from ringside. This was not in the program. "I never look for moments, Mike," Statham replied, his calm voice cutting through the rising din. "Never have. But I've never walked away from one either." The arena exploded. What began as a joke had crystallized into a confrontation of philosophies, of legacies. The other fighters instinctively backed away, forming a circle around the two men. Tyson, feeding on the chaos, handed his microphone away and rolled his shoulders, a familiar, menacing motion. "Well then, Jason," he called out, his voice carrying easily without a mic. "How about we give these people a little something special? A taste of reality versus acting." He spat the last word out like a challenge. The crowd chanted a single, thunderous word that shook the building. "Fight! Fight! Fight!" In the midst of the maelstrom, Statham simply placed his microphone on the mat and took 2 steps back. He unhurriedly removed his watch, handing it to a younger fighter. His movements were methodical, precise, a man utterly in control of the storm he had just unleashed. The production team, caught between a PR disaster and a pay-per-view dream, scrambled to impose order. The lead producer's voice crackled through the announcer's earpiece. "Frame it as an exhibition. Demonstration only. 3 minutes." The announcer, his professional smile plastered on, raised his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears our legends will give us an unscheduled demonstration of their respective arts. Remember, this is purely for exhibition." The qualifier was lost in the roar. Security cleared the octagon, leaving only Tyson and Statham. At ringside, Tyson's trainer leaned in. "Keep it light, Mike. Just punches. This ain't sanctioned." Across the cage, one of Statham's few companions, a man with the hardened look of a former Special Forces operative, simply met his gaze and nodded. No words were needed. The two men met in the center. Tyson, still bouncing, extended his fists. Statham reached out with an open hand, briefly clasping Tyson's glove. An electronic tone sliced through the noise. The exhibition had begun. Tyson immediately sank into his iconic peekaboo stance, head weaving, a predator closing the distance. He cut off the cage with a masterful ring generalship that had terrified a generation of heavyweights. This was his world, and he would control the space. Across from him, Statham stood in a more upright, balanced stance. It wasn't boxing, it wasn't karate, it was something else entirely, practical, efficient, ready. His hands were held lower, his posture designed for explosive counters from any angle. Tyson moved first, a probing jab meant to test reactions. Statham didn't flinch. He simply shifted his weight, a subtle, almost imperceptible adjustment. "Come on, actor," Tyson taunted, jabbing again, this time stepping in closer. Statham sidestepped with fluid economy, maintaining the critical distance. "He's not doing anything," Leo said to his father, confused. "He's doing everything, son," his father replied, his eyes glued to the cage. "He's reading him." Tyson pressed, throwing a jab-cross combination at demonstration speed. The punches hissed through empty air as Statham slipped the first and pivoted away from the second. The boxer's frustration grew. He became more aggressive, forcing Statham toward the fence. Nowhere to run now, Hollywood. With Statham's back near the chain link, Tyson unleashed a faster, sharper combination. The punches whistled with genuine intent. Statham blocked the first with his forearm, slipped the second, and then, for the first time, countered. It came without warning. A brutally efficient sidekick, launched from his stance with no telegraph, slammed into Tyson's midsection. It wasn't thrown with full power, but its timing and precision were perfect. Tyson grunted, taking an involuntary half-step back, a look of pure surprise on his face. The crowd gasped. Okay. Tyson nodded, his grin gone, replaced by the focused glare of a fighter. Not bad for an actor. The energy had shifted. This was no longer a performance. It was an exchange. Tyson pressed again, his combinations tighter, faster. He was trying to solve the puzzle of Statham's movement, to trap him where his unorthodox angles would be useless. Statham defended with calm precision, redirecting Tyson's force, giving ground but never losing his structure. Then, Statham changed the pattern. Instead of circling away, he stepped into Tyson's attack at an angle, momentarily disrupting the boxer's rhythm. In that split-second opening, he unleashed a straight right that snapped Tyson's head back, followed instantly by a low kick that buckled the boxer's lead leg. The speed was shocking. 30 seconds remained. Pride fully engaged, Tyson committed completely. He cornered Statham and launched his most famous sequence. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. A whirlwind of controlled violence designed to overwhelm and destroy. Statham blocked the jab, parried the cross, but the heavy hook caught his forearm, knocking him slightly off balance. The uppercut, Tyson's fight-ending weapon, came rising from the floor, aimed directly at his chin. Time slowed. Decades of discipline converged into a single, instinctive moment. As the uppercut ascended, Statham executed a counter that defied physics. Pivoting on his lead foot, he spun not away, but into the punch. His body torqued, and a right elbow, honed to a point, sliced through the air on a trajectory aimed directly at Tyson's temple. A lethal, fight-ending strike, but never landed. In a breathtaking display of absolute control, the elbow stopped, trembling with kinetic energy, less than an inch from Tyson's head. At the exact same microsecond, Tyson's uppercut halted just below Statham's chin. They froze, locked in that tableau of suspended destruction. Two masters, each capable of ending the fight, choosing restraint. For a heartbeat, the arena was utterly silent. Then the final tone sounded. The spell was broken, and the crowd erupted in a wave of sound that was not about bloodlust, but about awe. As the electronic tone faded, Statham retracted his elbow and stepped back into a neutral stance, as if nothing had happened. Tyson slowly lowered his fists, the ferocity in his eyes replaced by a complex storm of shock, respect, and the profound recalibration that occurs when an absolute certainty is shattered. The announcer, his voice trembling with genuine excitement, rushed to the center. Ladies and gentlemen, what an unbelievable display of skill and discipline from two legends. The crowd's response was a deafening, unified standing ovation. As Statham and Tyson approached each other, Tyson extended his gloved hand first. Statham clasped it. No words were audible over the roar, but the handshake was a treaty, a mutual acknowledgement that transcended sport. In the front row, Leo stood stunned. "Dad, that elbow. He could have." "That's right," his father said, his voice thick with emotion. But the real power wasn't in throwing it. It was in choosing not to. Backstage, the atmosphere was electric. Production staff were huddled around monitors, replaying the final exchange in slow motion. In his dressing room, Tyson paced, re-energized, not with anger, but with a fighter's pure admiration. "Did you see it? The elbow," he exclaimed to his team, his voice filled with awe. "I never saw it coming. The old man is a razor blade. A damn razor blade." His dismissiveness had completely evaporated, replaced by an insatiable curiosity. "I need to watch that back. The way he used my pressure against me. That wasn't acting." Down the hall, Statham's small room was an oasis of calm. He sat quietly, sipping from a bottle of water, his breathing even. His longtime associate handed him a towel. "You all right, Jay?" Statham nodded, rotating the shoulder that had blocked Tyson's hook. "He still hits like a mule kicks," he said with a grimace that was almost a smile. "But faster." Social media had already detonated. The clip of the final, frozen moment was the single most shared piece of content on the planet. Hashtag Tyson Statham and hashtag The Elbow were trending worldwide. It was no longer a sports story. It had become a cultural event. The narrative was irresistible. The feared destroyer humbled not by a bigger punch, but by superior control. The brash champion silenced not by a knockout, but by a quiet demonstration of discipline. The event's meticulously planned schedule was now irrelevant. The entire night orbited this single, unplanned, 3-minute encounter. When the production team announced the upcoming panel discussion, a segment that was supposed to be a low-key cool-down, the crowd roared with renewed anticipation. They knew the real main event was just about to begin. The confrontation was over, but the conversation and the reckoning was just getting started. The stage was hastily reconfigured for the panel discussion, the air thick with a significance that had not existed an hour before. The moderator, a veteran combat sports journalist, took his seat, knowing the prepared questions were now obsolete. As Statham and Tyson took their places, pointedly seated next to each other, a hush fell over the arena. "Gentlemen," the moderator began, "I think it's safe to say we have all just witnessed something historic. Mike, let's start with you." It began with some playful comments about Jason being just an actor. What happened in there? Tyson leaned into the microphone, his usual bravado gone, replaced by a raw honesty. "Man, I was just having fun. That's what I do, I talk. I entertain." He glanced sideways at Statham. But then it got real. When we were in there, that wasn't some old guy from the movies. That was a master. A real master. The audience applauded the candid admission. "I've been hit by the hardest punchers in history," Tyson continued, his voice gaining intensity. "I know what power feels like. But what Jason showed, that's a different kind of danger. It's quiet. It's precise. That elbow," he shook his head in disbelief, "I never saw it. I was throwing a knockout shot. And in the middle of it, he found an opening I didn't know existed. That's not a movie trick. That's a lifetime of real work." The moderator turned to Statham. "Jason, your perspective?" Statham adjusted his microphone. "I didn't come here to prove a point," he said, his voice calm and measured. "At my age, you're past needing that kind of validation. But respect is a two-way street. It must be earned, but it must also be given." He looked at Tyson without a trace of animosity. Mike is a legend for a reason. His accomplishments are undeniable. But the art I've spent my life studying is about de-escalation as much as it is about destruction. It's about control. The moderator pressed. That final moment. The control to stop that elbow. "Can you talk us through that?" "There is nothing to talk through," Statham replied simply. "You don't think in those moments. You react." Decades of training are for one purpose: to make the right choice without thinking. The choice is always to use the minimum force necessary. In that moment, the minimum force required was zero. A wave of applause, deeper and more thoughtful this time, rolled through the arena. Young Leo leaned over to his father. "Dad, I get it. He didn't have to prove he could knock him out. He proved it by not knocking him out." Tyson, who had been listening intently, leaned into his own microphone. "He's right. That's what everyone needs to understand. I was trying to win. He was just in control. Of himself, of the distance, of the entire situation. He became analytical, the student in him emerging. In boxing, we cut off the ring. We trap you. He never let me trap him. He used angles I've never seen. It wasn't about being stronger or faster. It was about being smarter. The discussion evolved from a post-fight analysis into a philosophical masterclass. The two men, from vastly different worlds, found common ground in the universal principles of discipline, timing, and respect. Tyson, the avatar of raw power, became an advocate for tactical precision. Statham, the quiet professional, articulated the profound strength that lies in restraint. What had started as a public mockery had transformed, before thousands of witnesses, into a profound and public reconciliation of two opposing, yet complementary, warrior philosophies. In the days and weeks that followed, the exhibition became a cultural touchstone. It was more than a viral moment. It was a lesson. In boxing gyms, dojos, and MMA facilities around the world, instructors used the clip of the final exchange as a teaching tool. It wasn't about the techniques. It was about the decision-making behind them. The confrontation sparked a global conversation about the nature of strength. Was it the visible, explosive power of a Tyson, or the quiet, controlled potency of a Statham? The answer, the world seemed to conclude, was that both were essential, but one was perhaps more evolved. Back home, Leo took down the poster of Tyson from his bedroom wall. He didn't replace it. Instead, he cleared a space, a symbolic gesture his father understood immediately. He had moved beyond idolizing a single man to respecting a principle. He later enrolled in a Krav Maga class, not to be a fighter, but, as he explained, to learn how to not have to fight. The incident redefined the legacies of both men. Tyson, once seen only as a destroyer, was now viewed with new depth, as a warrior capable of humility and profound insight. Statham, often dismissed as a movie-tough guy, was now universally recognized as the genuine article, a master of his craft whose greatest strength was the one he chose not to display. True respect is never demanded. It is quietly, authoritatively demonstrated. What happened that night in Las Vegas wasn't a fight. It was a revelation, a powerful and public reminder that the ultimate form of power isn't the ability to destroy an opponent, but the discipline to control oneself. What does true strength mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and comment respect for these two legends. And if this story moved you, make sure you subscribe. We have another incredible story waiting for you.